Mic check. Most on correct. Shalom. Yahweh Shim Yahweh Shai Brakathom to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemal Athah Shim Yahweh Shai to all the sisters. This is we're at the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, starting out 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Tonight is the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, you know what I'm saying, where we go into the Hebrew language, into our native tongue, you know what I'm saying, where we break free from the mental, you know what I'm saying, the mental shackles from our oppressor, where they stole our language and then gave us a whole nother language. You know what I'm saying? This is the class where we learn our original customs as far as how we spoke to one another, how we communicated. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class tonight and learn our language as we always do every Friday. You know what I'm saying? In Killeen, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Salaki, in 1 second. I'm saying, if you're watching online, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If you're watching online, if you can see the board okay, you know what I'm saying? Let me know. If you can't see it, let me know. And I'll make some adjustments for y'all brothers and sisters. If you got any questions online or in the classroom, you know what I'm saying? Put those in the chat or just raise your hand. This is the class where you are able to ask all your Lashawan Qadash related questions and get them answered. All right. So every Friday, when you're in a Lashawan Qadash class live, whether you're online or in class, this is the class where you should take advantage and ask all of your Lashawan Qadash related questions, so that you can get them answered and understand our language better, because this is our culture. This is part of our culture. This is our language. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge part of our culture. You know what I'm saying? The biggest part of our culture is the language that they speak amongst one another. So if you got any Lashawan Qadash questions in the room or in the chat, just raise your hand or put it in the chat so that we can address it. All right? So also, as we address every class, let's make sure you got all of your learning utensils, especially if you're a priest, or, you know what I'm saying, not want to say especially, because everybody should be invested in their culture, right? So whether you're a brother, a sister, a priest, a young man, trooper, or aspiring priest, you know what I'm saying, if you're in class tonight, if you're in any class, you should have all your learning utensils, like pen, notebook, notepad, a sheet of paper, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, you know what I'm saying. You should have that, especially for Lashawan Qadash class, because you're going to need to write and practice writing our language. So make sure you have a pen and a notebook, something to write on, take notes in. Make sure you have your James Strong's Concordance with Bible Dictionary, whether it's together or separate. Make sure you got any apps that we talked about in earlier classes. Let's make sure you have a Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Make sure you have a 1611 King James Bible with Apocrypha. Make sure you have all those things. Select it. All right. 1 second. Select. Yeah, let's make sure we're taking this seriously, all right? Taking our culture seriously, because ain't nobody gonna bring the kingdom back but us, but Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And you know what I'm saying, we think we waiting on Christ, but Christ waiting on us. You know what I'm saying? He waiting on us to, you know what I'm saying, get it together, show him that we, you know what I'm saying, show the Most High that we serious about our culture. You know what I'm saying? So ain't nobody waiting on us. We waiting, or we ain't waiting on Christ. Christ and the most high Christ is waiting on us. So, you know what I'm saying? Let's show the Lord and Christ that we tired of being in hell, tired of being under the scrutiny of the white man who is a crooked and wicked bastard, man. You know what I'm saying? We under so much scrutiny under our oppressor. You know You know what I'm saying? And he a wicked bastard himself. You know what I'm saying? All day today, you know what I'm saying? I was seeing what's her name? What is that coon sister? Man, what is her name? Can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she rocking with Kanye West right now, talking about white lives matter, right? Couple what's his brother name? Kingdom. What's his name? Is Kingdom Reacts or something like that on YouTube, right? They talking about how not we, you know what I'm saying, in the ISUPK necessarily, but they talking about how black people are stuck in the past for wanting justice for the things that go on, for the thing that went on 400, 500 years ago, not even that long, not even 100 years ago. You know what I'm saying? They talking about how we got the victim mentality for wanting justice for the years of oppression and rape, rob, and murder that we suffered under this oppressor. And now they talking about we got a victim mentality. That's all I've been seeing all day, man. But the thing, you know what I'm saying? The thing about that is, you know, like we got to show the Lord that we serious about it. Because everybody around us, you know what I'm saying, they forgetting about our oppression. They talking about, you know what I'm saying, that wasn't even us that suffered this oppression. It was our grandparents, it was our great grandparents, and they didn't even, you know what I'm saying, they downplayed their oppression. Like they wasn't even crying as much as this is what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? These aren't my words, but they're saying, you know what I'm saying, they wasn't even Candace Owens, that's the sister name. You know what I'm saying? She talking about you know what I'm saying, we not even crying, you know what I'm saying? Our grandparents wasn't even crying about their oppression, man. As much as we crying about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is a sister insulting blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans as a black, Hispanic, and Native American with no brotherhood, no compassion for our people and the oppression that we've undergone under this devil, the so-called white man. The so-called fake Jewish man who is taking our culture and is proud about it. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, we have to be zealous. We have to be extremely zealous about our culture and taking it back. Because if we're not zealous about it, then we got, you know what I'm saying, brothers and sisters out there who are willing to let our, you know what I'm saying, our culture be forgotten in history. Let our, you know what I'm saying, culture be overtaken by our oppressor. We got our oppressor who want to take our culture and continue to wear it. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that their time is up. So with that being said, we got to be very zealous about this culture and understanding these scriptures and understanding the Most High and understanding the Spirit of the Lord and Christ and the mysteries of the Bible. And that also includes understanding this Lashawan Qadash. All right? So let's make sure we got all our learning utensils, as we talked about earlier, and make sure we come prepared with questions so that we can get them answered so that we can bring this kingdom back, man. That's what this is all about. So with that, we're just going to review, you know what I'm saying, a couple of things that we went over last couple classes so that we can piggyback off of that. So we're going to start with the Hebrew alphabet. And as we go through this, you should already have the Hebrew alphabet in both the ancient and the Assyrian Hebrew. You should have that in your notes. All right. So as we go through the Hebrew alphabet, you should be following along with the notes that you took from the first couple classes and reciting the Hebrew so that you can be able to, you know what I'm saying, retain the information and not have to resort to your notes for certain things. Like as we go through these classes, it's good to take notes, of course, and it's good to refer to your notes. But as we compound on our knowledge, we shouldn't have to go back to our notes for certain things because language is about retention. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to visit the dictionary to remember how to communicate in the English language all the time. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to refer to the dictionary daily to communicate in the English language or in Spanish or in Creole or Patois or whatever our people speak nowadays that was given to us by our oppressor. know what I'm saying? It's retention. You take notes as a child, but then after a while, you start to retain certain things, and then you can, you know what I'm saying, you just move with the knowledge that you have. You want to have that's the same spirit we want to have with this Hebrew, right? It's Lashawan Qadash. All right, so revisit your notes if you have to. You know what I'm saying? As we go through this Lashawan Qadash, but Lord willing, you know what I'm saying. At this point, we at least have the alphabet, the characters in our mind in order, right? So we got Ah, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Cha, Ta, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Na, Pa, Taza, Hua, Ra, Sha, Tha, right? So those are the letters that are, you know what I'm saying, the characters in the Hebrew alphabet. We're going to go over what we went over last week. So if we remember, last week we went over, we went over a couple words, right? Based on, you know what I'm saying, we went over a couple words that form questions that we use to build questions. Who, what, when, where, and why. So we're going to review that. And while I'm putting this on the board, you know what I'm saying, I gave a little homework last week, right? So I'd ask brothers and sisters to go back, you know what I'm saying, based on what we went over last week, in their own time, form questions using these phrases just to practice and to retain what we learned, right? So as I'm putting this on the board, I want brothers and sisters to, you know what I'm saying, if you're watching online, put it in the chat and let me know what kind of questions that you was able to come up with, what kind of phrases and sentences that you was able to form using the notes that we took last week. All right? See who's been interactive and paying attention during class and following instructions. All right, so we went over who, what, when, where, why, and I'm gonna put how at the bottom so we could briefly go over before we go into the next topic. All right. So as I'm putting this up here, make sure we anything that you came up with from last week, just put it in the chat. What kind of sentences will we able to form? How have we been practicing? You know what I'm saying? And just remember, you know what I'm saying, as we go to class, just remember that I'm writing in the Assyrian Hebrew because that's the one that we tend to be the least familiar with. All right. But just for, you know what I'm saying, just for your understanding and comprehension, if you have to write it in the ancient, if you're not as familiar with the ancient as everybody else, you know what I'm saying, it's not a problem. Just you know what I'm saying, write it in the ancient as well. You know what I'm saying? I recommend all brothers and sisters, especially if you just starting off. I recommend brothers and sisters to write in the ancient and the Assyrian. I would start with the ancient, and then, you know what I'm saying, try to practice with the Assyrian once you understand the ancient. It shouldn't, you know what I'm saying, take too long to get into it. But if you know what I'm saying, if you're not comfortable with writing the Assyrian, or if you're not quite comfortable with writing in the ancient, I would practice that as well and take notes in the ancient as well, right? But you know, I trust that brothers and sisters are probably pretty, you know what I'm saying, comfortable at this point with the ancient, right? And also, you know what I'm saying, I know brothers and sisters is coming in, you know what I'm saying, we might have some new viewers online or on Facebook or YouTube or wherever we stream from. So if you have, or even if you've been in class, but you just need a refresher, or you know what I'm saying, whatever the case, just ask those questions. Like, don't be discouraged because we already, you know what I'm saying, or you know what I'm saying, we on a more advanced topic or whatever we might think, you know what I'm saying, that might keep us from holding or might keep us from asking our questions. Ask those questions. Like, don't worry about none of that, man. The whole purpose of any class that we in, whether it's scripture breakdown, brotherhood, law, Lashawan, Qadash, history, or any class, you know what I'm saying? Or if you just heard something, you know what I'm saying, online, and you want to get a deeper understanding of it, the whole purpose of class is for you to be able to ask your question, man. So there's no question that's not you know what I'm saying, there's no stupid question, there's no unintelligent question, you know what I'm saying, regarding our culture. So, you know what I'm saying, don't be discouraged to ask questions no matter what level you think that, you know what I'm saying, you at, or whatever the case is. If you have a question, no matter how small or how complicated or whatever the case is, just ask it, all right? That's how you're going to get it. That's how you learn. That's how it works. All right, shalom with Christ, sis. So, I'm saying, if you got any question or if you want to review anything, just put it in the chat. Just put it in chat. If you're in class, if you're present in class, just raise your hand. We're gonna get it answered. All right. So last week we went over again who, what, when, where, why, and at the end we touched on how. But I'm gonna go back into it real quick. Because the sister had a question on it at the beginning of the class. I just want to touch on it real fast, right? So, just like how or which, or, you know what I'm saying, certain words that aren't on this board, you know what I'm saying, they're not on here for a reason. So, we're going to get right into that, right? So, any of these words can be used for how, which, or depending on how it's being used, how long, how small, how fast, how large, or whatever the specific question is, it can be used as, or it can use the word who, what, when, where, or why. So we got, so for how, right? Last week we went over 18, and it's when Moses first fled Egypt, right? And he met the heathen sisters. I believe those heathen women who was watering the flock, right? And he had helped them because he was in a land. He was like, if I help you, you give me some of that water, right? Because he was thirsty, right? So he had helped them, and they had returned back to they living quarters earlier than usual. And their father ordered, their head. They'd ask, how is it? We're going to go right into it. We're going to read it directly from the scriptures. Right? All right. All right, but the women, the heathen women that asked, or their head that asked, why are they come back? Why are they why are they come or how is it? The specific question was, how is it that they came back so early, right? We're gonna get to Exodus chapter 2, verse 18, and it says, oh, their father. It says when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? Right? So that's a specific question. Right? So the specific verbiage is, how is it? So they're using the word how, right? How is it that ye are come so soon today? But if you go into the Lashawan Qadash, whether you go into the Blue Letter Bible, the Blue Letter Bible, the Salakia, the Strong Concordance, no matter what resource you use, right? The Bible Hub, whatever you use, it's going to say Madawai. It's going to look like this, Madawai, which is Strong Concordance Code 4069, right? So it's going to say Madawai, meaning what? Why? Like we went over last week. So in that scripture, it says, how is it that you are come so soon today? But the question is, why are ye come so soon today? Right? So in the English translation is how, but the word that's being used is why. So how and why can be used, depending on the context. Same with which, same with any other word, that you see up here or you don't see up here, you might be able to use a different word to create the same type of question. All right. So just a quick review, And again, if you just joining, if you, regarding the homework from last week, I asked to, for brothers and sisters to form sentences based on the notes that we took last week, right? So we practice forming sentences. And then I asked for you to form your own sentences, right? For practice, right? So just put those up in the chat, raise your hand, if you're in class, and let's see what kind of sentences that we was able to come up with. All right. So we got who, Maya, right? Just a review, So go to that portion of your notes that you took from last week, and we're gonna review this, right? We got who, Maya, Maya. Who? Right? What? Ma. Ma. What? When? Ma the ya. Ma the ya. When? Where? Ya. Ya. Right? Where? And why? Ma da why. Ma da why. Why? Right? Should be pretty easy to remember. You know what I'm saying? If you can remember these four things, from last class, then you'll be, you know what I'm saying, you'll be able to extend your vocabulary and build sentences. So who, what, when, where, why, right? And then you'll be able to extend beyond that and ask questions like how or which, because which is basically saying what, or which one, what, right? Or which person, who, which place, where, you know what I'm saying? Which reason, why, you know what I'm saying? How, basically you can ask why, or you know what I'm saying, is, or what cause can be how also, or you know what I'm saying, just depending on what question you want to ask, you can interchange those and use how or which, you know what I'm saying? So if you don't already have these, I would get them in your notes now. You can pause, ask questions. If you want me to repeat anything, you know what I'm saying, I'll gladly repeat myself. That ain't no thing. Or, you know what I'm saying, if you're watching from online, just rewind, all right? Just rewind it, pause it, take notes as you need to, ask questions as you need to, so that we can get out of this hell, all right? We can get out of hell. So, lock you. 1 second, all right? Let me see. All right, so with that, now that we did a little bit of review, we're going to get into the next topic, right? So just make sure you got them notes down. And we're going to be right back. We're going to get into the next topic, which is going to be the nations, right? And we're going to build our vocabulary based on that. And, you know what I'm saying, be able to form more sentences, all right? Right back, all right?
In the closet by the mob ball. Fuck what they heard, tell them it's all true. Because that foundation voltage to fall through. They gon' fall. Look, I keep this shit 50 times soon. Ain't no more heart in this game, I'm John Q. Colder than the avalanche, way above average. Vince taste sweet, told him make me an apple crisp. Left this in the alley, flip bones, this is where hope failed. Child become a man, our sands get broke down. Riding through Evanston with Mark Quad, telling me how the crackers turn his childhood to a ghost town. Poker stop, nigga, I lay that game down. I feel his pain, cause nothing is the same now. Let my light shine like heaven through a rain cloud. Glock have a fit like my child, don't tangent. Try to warn niggas, we bear arms like tarantulas. Them mother niggas rap, I make anthems. I really see profits under this banner. Make my enemies bow down on camera. Told my design I want it black and white like a panda. I'm better than that nigga that sunk dirty Diana. Look, I move like a Brazilian, precious cargo, spirit ancient, but I got a new semi-auto. Wave that bitch around like where's Waldo. Sleep if they won't, I cut through they Z's like I'm Zorro. Pay me for his name, so I gotta keep that steel clutch. Trust me, I'm not what you think. I squeeze till it click like Dorothy when the heels touch. The world got me numb, I don't feel much. Ride around with Yara down, just left the state bridge. Looking for a bitch better than Baby's kid. Remember I dropped Quiet Storm, I've been gone ever since. Still in the field, fuck them niggas on the fence, yeah.
All right. Like it for that brief intermission real quick. We're going to get into these nations, right? So last week, So last week we talked about the, forming questions, right? Forming questions according to the who, what, when, where, and why, that we learned last week. And one of the questions was, we dealt with who is your father, right? Ma abawa, right? So, or depending on who you're talking about, who is your father, ma abaka, who is your father, or Salakia, what is your father, ma abaka, or who, ma ya abaka, right? Dealing with somebody's father, who is your father, right? Ma ya abaka, who is her father, ma ya, right? We're going to put it back on the board real quick. So, who was Salakia? We're going to use this one, right? What is your father? So we know that we build this sentence, or this question rather. We know the importance of this question, right? Because it's unlawful for us to deal with somebody else as far as marriage of anybody of another nation. So this is usually the second question that a brother will ask a sister, aside from if they're married. After you find out that they're not married, okay, well, who is your father? Or, depending on how you're dealing with a person, you just ask a brother, a priest might ask a brother, hey, who is your father? Or what is your father? And they'll be like, okay, my father's a black man, or my father's a white man, my father is a East Indian, or whatever the case is. And we can gauge whether they're of the tribes of Israel based on their response. All right, so what is your father? This is a very important question. This is a question that we ask one another and ask people, whether they're in the truth or not, all the time. We got the Southern Texas Regional Cookout coming up, right? So, we tell brothers and sisters, if they Black, Hispanic, and Native American, they can come to the cookout. But that's the only thing. They got to be Black, Hispanic, and Native American, because that's who this cookout is for. So it might be a lot of that, right? At the cookout, especially brothers on Shamar, you have to ask a brother, hey, who is your father? Or if you're talking to another officer and you don't want to offend the brother, you don't want to, cause contention, You know what I'm saying? You're going to be low key for security purposes. You can just ask in Hebrew. So we know that the word what is ma. So like, let me get a different marker. We know that the word for what is ma. So ma, your father. So we know the word for father is Abba. Abba is father. Your requires a possessive, right? So ma, Abba, ka, right? You write it in the ancient or in the Assyrian. Ma, Abba, ka. Put it in a different color. All right. All right, so now you can answer this question. Last week we practiced answering this question, but you can't answer the question if you don't know the names of the nations of the 12 tribes of Israel in the Hebrew. So that's what we're going to go over today, right, for the last portion of the class, right? So whether it's Abba Ka, right, because Ka is you or your, which is why we got that suffix there. Ma Abba Ka, what is your father, or whether it's you're talking to somebody else, like say me and Officer Abans Ayana's talking to one another, I'll ask him, if I'm talking about a sister, what is her father? So ma, Abba, then the possessive, the suffix changes. So it goes from Abba Ka, which is your, goes from Abba Ka to Abba Ha. Ma Abba Ha. What is her father, right? If I'm talking to Officer Banzayan, again, or Officer Karab, or anybody, you know what I'm saying, about another brother, I'll be like, Ma, Abba, Wa. What is his father, right? What nation is his father, right? So the point is, you know what I'm saying, all you're doing is changing the suffix. It's all you're doing, depending on who you're talking about. So whether you're talking about my father, Abba Yah, my father, what is my father? Abba Ka, what is your father? Abba Wa, what is his father? Abba Ha, what is her father? Abba Nawa, our father, right? Abba Khan, Abba Kam, who is y'all's father. Abba Thum, who is their father, right? So depending, regardless of who you're talking about, we're just changing the suffix, but the response will be the same. So Abba, again, you're changing a suffix. So you'll answer that question with, so the question is, what is your father? The answer will be Ba Ka. So, or if you're answering the question, it'll be now somebody's asking you, who's your father? You will respond, my father, Abba Yah, and we're going to fill in the blank. All right? So, Abba Yah is my father, right? So, my father and the is implied, right? Because even as, you know what I'm saying, speaking English, you know what I'm saying, we don't always put the is or the filler words in because that's not our culture. That's not how we talk to one another. So we don't say, my father is such and such, or you might not. Usually we'll just say, my father Judah. You know what I'm saying? My father Ephraim, my father Gad. You know what I'm saying? That's how we talk. So it's the same with the Hebrew, right? So there's the question, what is your father? The answer, Abba Yah, my father is, and now we're going to get into these nations, right? So what I would do is write down these notes, you know what I'm saying, under nations or however you got to organize them. Let's take good organized notes so that we can reference them later. So it's not just some, you know what I'm saying, jumbled up words and characters and letters on a piece of paper. We should be able to go and revisit our notes and understand what we wrote. Right? Your father, Ma Abaka. So we got is Judah, right? So to say my father is Judah, right? The same bloodline as Christ. And the same bloodline, you know what I'm saying, the same tribe that we all tend to claim, right? So a lot of brothers and sisters, once you get your Hebrew name, you change your name on all social media to Hebrew name, Bon, tribe name, Bon, nation, Bon Yasharal, right? A lot of times we see Judah, everybody Judah, right? You know what I'm saying? Because of the curses. We don't know who our father is. A lot of us didn't have fathers. But that's part of the curses, you know what I'm saying? The scriptures say in Deuteronomy that, you know what I'm saying, our fathers, you know what I'm saying, are, you know what I'm saying, the young man and the, you know what I'm saying, the man who is, you know what I'm saying, will have an evil eye toward his brother. And paraphrasing, the mothers, or saying the families will be separated. You know what I'm saying? The fathers will leave the mother. You know what I'm saying? The children will hate the parent. The parents will hate the children. We'll have an evil eye toward one another. So that's part of the curses. So a lot of times we don't know who our father is. So because of colorism, because we got dark skin and we suffered a certain type of oppression, we just call ourselves Judites, right? So this is probably the most popular one. Long story short, so how you would say Judah, as we probably already know, is Yah Ha Wa Yahawada, right? So Yahawada, meaning, so like, let me move this down, meaning Judah. So Abba, so if your father is a Judite or from the tribe of Judah, you would say Abba Yah Yahawada. Yah ha wa da. Right? So that's why behind a lot of brothers and sisters' names, you'll see Hebrew name, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasha'ala. Or when we check in during councils and all of that, we'll say, for example, I say Kal Kazah, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasha'ala. Or during Sabbath service, during feast days, you know what I'm saying? You'll say, you'll present yourself, right? You'll say Kal Kazah, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yahawada. And that's how you present yourself. It's your Hebrew name, Ban, son of, which is Ban, son, Yahawada, son. So that's how you would answer that question. Now we're going to get to the nation. Now there's 12 nations. There's 12 nations in Israel. All right, so make sure while you're taking notes, you have plenty of space to take notes enough for 12 nations. And also have plenty of space to be able to write down not only the nation in English, but in the ancient and the Assyrian. And if you want to double down, you know what I'm saying, you can write it in question form so that you know how to communicate. You can practice writing. Or, you know what I'm saying, the question is, what is your father? Abba Yah, Yahawada. That's how you will respond if you're a Judite. Now let's see how you will respond if you are from the tribe of Ephraim. Right? Salakia. Let me not skip ahead. Salakia from the tribe of Benjamin. Well, since I said, I'm going to go ahead with the Ephraim. All right. Since I said it, you know what I'm saying? So you got Abba Yah, Abba Yah, Salaki. Let me get rid of this too. Ah, Ha, Ra, Yum. Right? Ah, Ha, Ra, Yum. That's how you would say Ephraim. Right? These are the so-called Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, right? The rich port, right? That's how you would say that. You know what I'm saying? So if your parents, your ancestor, your father, more specifically, your father, your grandfather, you know what I'm saying? If you were from Puerto Rico or your parents were from Puerto Rico, Salakia, your father, because according to Numbers chapter 1, verse 18, our nations are called by the nationality of our father, right? So if your father is a so-called Puerto Rican, then you are from the tribe of Ephraim or Apariam in the Hebrew. So if your father is, so Ma Abaka, what is your father? If you're from Puerto Rico, you would respond, Abba Yah Apariam. Right? So you got, next up, you got Benjamin, right? Benjamin, again, is one of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And you can find all 12 children that were chosen and their biblical Hebrew or their biblical in Genesis chapter 40, chapter 49, in chapter 49, right? So you'll see their names and their blessing in Genesis chapter 49, right? And if you want to look into the Bible Hub at Blue Letter Bible, English or Hebrew to Hebrew, Greek Interlinear Bible, or whatever you want to look into, the concordance or what, it'll tell you their biblical names, right? So we got Benjamin. Now we're talking about Benjamin, who are the so-called Jamaicans, the Trinidadians, the Pacific Islanders, the West Indians, more specific, or Slovakia, not Pacific Islanders, Slovakia, West Indies, Slovakia, not the Pacific Islanders. That is, we're going to get into that next class, the nations of the heathens, right? Right now we're dealing with the 12 tribes. So the West Indies, right? So Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, the Caribbean islands, right? So that's the nation, the tribe of Benjamin. So in the Hebrew, you would say Abaya. So who is your father? If you're from the Caribbean island, the West Indies, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, you would respond Ma Abaka, who is your father? You will respond Abaya. Ban Yum Yun. Right? Response in Hebrew. Right? Yum Yun. And if you notice how we talked and stating your pedigree earlier, if you were stating your pedigree, you would say your Hebrew name, Kalkazah, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasha'ala, or Ban tribe, Ban nation. So we know that this word right here means son, Ban. Ban Yum Yun. Right? So the name Ban Yum Yun means son of the right hand, or son at the right hand, right? Ban Yum Yun, right? Because the word Yum Yun here, you can, you know what I'm saying? Because we're going to go this also, you know what I'm saying, in upcoming classes, right? So this word right here, you can split this name into two, you know what I'm saying, into two words, right? Ban Yum Yun. Ban means son. Yum Yun means right. Right? So just like Christ sits at the right, or he stands on the right hand of the throne, right? Yun. Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, is translated to son of the right hand, right? And notice also, so we got Ban right here. So this Ba Na. We got Ba Na, Ya Ma Ya, and another Na. But notice that these two characters are different, right? Now we know why these two characters are different, because at the end, Na is one of the 5 characters that has a different character if it's coming at the end of a sentence versus the beginning of or the middle of a sentence. So this is the perfect example for that too. So Ban Yum Yun, because Ban Yum Yun means son at the right hand. That's how you say Benjamin, referring to the East End or the West Indians, the Caribbeans, the Jamaicans, Trinidadians. You know what I'm saying? Next up, we got Levi, right? So Levi is talking about the Haitians, right? Right? So Levi is talking about the Haitians, the Levites, right? To say that, you would say, so if somebody asks you, what is your father? Ma'abaka, you would say, Abaya, because that suffix ya means me or my. Abaya, my father, is Lauya, right? Abaya, Lauya. If you're a Haitian, so-called Haitian, you would respond Abaya, Lauya. And notice that it has a suffix, right? We got the suffix ya, right? So let me see. Law ya. So it has that suffix, so we know that Abba Ya means my father. So law ya has to mean my law, right? So the Levites are the law keepers, right? The law, you know what I'm saying? They were the priests, you know what I'm saying, who kept and taught the law. Right? Moses, if I'm not mistaken, Moses was a Levite. Right? So the Levites are the lawgivers. Right? So somebody asks you who is your father, if you were a so-called Haitian, you would respond Abba Ya Law Ya. Right? Abba Ya Law Ya. Right? I know we starting to close in on time, so I'm gonna start moving them. I don't want to move too fast, but if you want to take, you know what I'm saying, if you want to pause, rewind, take your notes, put a question in the chat, you know what I'm saying, feel free to do so. You know what I'm saying? Don't sweat it, don't feel like you got to rush, all right? Just because I'm moving a little fast. If I got to slow it down at request, you know what I'm saying, I will do so. All right, so next up we got Simeon. The Simeonites. Biblical name, right? So you're asking Ma Abaka, who is your father? I'm asking you, Ma Abaka. So if I ask next week, now with us all knowing who our tribe is, by the end of this class, you should be able to respond in the Hebrew. You should be able to understand what I'm saying and then also respond in the Hebrew. So Ma Abaka, Abaya, if you're a Simeonite, my one, right? Now, we know that this suffix from previous classes is a proper noun. And this root word, classes, means to hear or to listen. All right? So in the Hebrew, Slovakia, in the Hebrew, you will write Shah, my, Shemaiwan. So we already talked about this suffix right here is making something a proper noun. This word right here means to hear. So putting that together, we know that this name means to hear, or something is being heard, but as a proper noun because it's a brother's name, right? The progenitor of the Haitians, right? So in the Bible, you know what I'm saying? I can't remember. Let me see. See if I can find it real quick. So, yeah. All right, so if you go to Genesis chapter 29, starting at verse 32, it says, and Leah conceived one of Salakia, one of one of Jacob's 4 wives, right? But one of Jacob's 4 wives, right? Leah conceived, and at verse 32 it says, and Leah conceived and bare a son, and she Salakia. Verse 33, Salakia, and she conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon, Shemaiwan in the Hebrew. Now, we know how sisters get, you know what I'm saying? They got to share their man, you know what I'm saying? And things could get a little bit catty, right? So they, you know what I'm saying, during this, you know what I'm saying, during their lives, right? Salakia. Jacob's 4 wives was, you know what I'm saying, fighting amongst one another. Right? Yeah, Jacob's wives was fighting amongst one another, you know what I'm saying, battling for favor of their husband. You know what I'm saying? That's how, you know what I'm saying, that's how it be sometimes. So Leah felt like she was hated, you know what I'm saying, among the wives, and she had conceived a son because she was, if I'm not mistaken, she was barren for a while, right? And she was unable to conceive a son. So when she had her son, you know what I'm saying, she named him Shemaiwan, because at this point, this was her second son, and she was praying for a, you know what I'm saying, to be able to give a son to her husband, you know what I'm saying, as a woman who wants to please her husband would do. She had prayed to bear her husband a son, and the Most High heard her and gave her her second son, and she named him Shemaiwan, which means, the Most High has heard. The Most High has heard, right? We're gonna get into the next joint, right? Now we know. Now, just before we go into the next couple ones, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, or the Northern Kingdom, right? Right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi are what's known as the Northern Kingdom, because in 2 Kings, I believe it was, the kingdom is split, right? Into northern and southern, into the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom, right? But Judah, Benjamin, Levi are the Northern Kingdom. Now, what we're about to go into, or we already started to go into, Simeon and going on down, and Ephraim also. We went over Ephraim. Simeon, Ephraim, and going on down are part of the Southern Kingdom, right? So, you know what I'm saying, if you got to put your notes, you know what I'm saying, put that in your notes somewhere, maybe divide these names up into Northern and Southern. You know what I'm saying? Do that if you need to. If you gotta write S for Southern and N for Northern, you know what I'm saying, next to the names, you know what I'm saying? Do that. But just note that somewhere in your notes. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Northern Kingdom. And the Simeon, Shemaiwan, Ephraim, Apariam, and the rest of them that we're about to go over, about to be the Southern Kingdom. All right, so next up, we got Zebulon. All right. Salaki. I'm about to go in here. I'm about to give it to y'all. Zebulon. Zebulon, right? These are the so-called Guatemalans, right? Guatemala to Panama, Salaki. All right. So, what is your father? Ma Abaka. You will respond, Abba Yah. In the Hebrew, Abba Yah, Za, Ba, La, Wan. Right? Note that prefix or that suffix again. Zabala Wan, meaning something is a proper noun. All right? In the Hebrew, it would be Aki, Za, Zabala Wan. Give y'all a second to get there real quick. All right, real quick, because I don't want to keep y'all too long. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of you. All right. All right. Abo Salakia. Ma'abaka, right? Ma'abaha. Who is your father? Who is his father? Who is her father? Right? The next one we got is Salakia. Manasseh. Manasseh, right? These are the so-called Cubans, right? So if you're from Cuba, you know what I'm saying? If your forefather, your father is from Cuba, right? You will respond Abba Yah, Ma, Na, Shah. Right? In the Assyrian, Ma, Na, Manashah. All right. Feel free to pause, rewind, raise your hand, ask a question. If I got to double back, you know what I'm saying, I will. We're gonna move on to the next one, right? So next up, we got Gad, the tribe of Gad, right? So Ma Abaka, what is your father? Ma Abawa, what is his father? Ma Abaha, what is her father? And they will respond, Abaya, Abba, you know what I'm saying? Abawa, Abaha, my father, his father, her father is Ban or Ba, depending on who we're talking to. Ban, God. So God, Da. All right, this one's real easy. All right, so God, Da. So Ban, Gad in the English, Gadite in the English, or Ban God in the Hebrew. Right? We only got a couple more, right? And the Gadites, you know what I'm saying, just for edification purposes, the Gadites are the so-called North American Indians, right? The indigenous, right? As you know what I'm saying, all right? The Native Americans, right? The North American Indians, so-called, or the Native Americans, or the indigenous, or the First Nation, whatever they want to be addressed as, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying those are our brothers, and this land belongs to them. You know what I'm saying? They were here first, and this land was stolen from our Gadite brothers and sisters, man. That's why we out here doing this, man. That's why we out here speaking on the corners and teaching classes Monday through Monday and doing this Lashawan Qadash class so that we can take back this culture that was stolen. Because the so-called what's the every slack it every you know what I'm saying? Every conquistador, every so-called explorer, conqueror, uh, every every oppressor that came over and stole this land from the so-called Native Americans, they came and like, well, Christopher Columbus, he knew exactly what he was looking for over here, man. He wasn't looking for that. He didn't think the world was flat. He knew the world was round, and he was looking for Hebrew-speaking people over here, man. He knew exactly what he was looking for because he knew that we were a peaceable people, and he wrote in his records that the people that he will find over here will make perfect slaves. So that's the whole purpose of his voyage. So he knew who he was looking for. And when they came over here, we greeted them with the credo. Yahweh, Shema Yashala, Yahweh Alahai, now Yahweh Chad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. We greeted them in the Hebrew. We had Magun Dawada on our garments. We had fringes on our garments. We had crowns on. We had head pieces. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That's what, like, so they knew exactly what they were looking for. You know what I'm saying? They weren't, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't no accident that they came over to America and stole this land. Right? So that's what we're talking about right now. So if you hear Gad or Ban God in the Hebrew, talking about a son of the Gadites, the son of Israel, Gad in the English, God in the Hebrew. Right? That's what it's talking about, the North American Indians. All right, so we got a couple more. Now we're going to talk about Reuben, right? So if you're from the so-called, it's talking about the Seminole Indians. This is a tough people, you know what I'm saying? This was strong people. A military, how do I say it? They were very tactical as far as their military and their strength and their might and their will to fight. You know what I'm saying? According to history, they were the only, you know what I'm saying, they were one of the only people who were, you know what I'm saying, they didn't just go into, I'm going to say it like this, they didn't just go into captivity peaceably. You know what I'm saying? They fought and fought and fought against our oppressor and won. You know what I'm saying? Just like we all did, and you know what I'm saying, in certain situations. The Haitians, I haven't forgotten. You know what I'm saying? The Haitians, the Levites, as we talked about, the Negroes, the Gadites, you know what I'm saying? We fought and fought and fought against the oppressor, man. And that's what the Reubenites are famous for. So if you're a Reubenite and someone asks, Ma Abaka, what is your father? You will respond, Abba Yah. I'm going to put it up here. Ra. So I can make sure I got it correct. Ra. Wa. Ban. All right? We got Ra. Wa. Ban. Reuben in the English. Right? Couple more. We're going to get up out of here, all right? Three more. These are the, like I said, the Seminole Indians, right? And now we're going to talk about the tribe of Asher, right? Tribe of Asher, right? I'm going to put it down here. Asher or Asherites. Tribe of Asher. So somebody asks you, Ma Abaka, what is your father? Ma Abaka. You will respond Abaka or Abaya. Yah is the suffix for near my. Abaya. You will respond like this. Abaya. Shar. Right? Shar. So Abaya Ashar. Those are the Colombian the people from Colombia to Uruguay. Or Uruguay, how the gringos would pronounce it, right? The so-called white man. That's how they would pronounce it. Uruguay, right? So from Colombia to Uruguay is Asher or Ashar in the Hebrew. All right, we're going to go ahead and get these last two. We're going to get up out of here, man. I don't see any questions in the chat. And I also don't see any of the questions that, you know what I'm saying, we was able to form in the Salakia, Allah. Salakia, Allah. I'm using Restream at the moment, sir. Shalom, Yahaba, Shim Yao Shah Brakatah. Salakia, but I'm using Restream. Let me see. Salakia, 1 second. to the left. All right, so Gad, Reuben, Asher. All right, we got two more, right? So we got, next up we got Naphtali, right? Right? These are the so-called Argentinians all the way down to Chile, right? But we're talking about the South American tribes, right? And you know what I'm saying, the Lord's chosen people were dispersed in North North, Central, and South America. And the Naphtalians, or the tribe of Naphtali in the English, right? We put it down here in the English. Naphtali. Right? In English, got Naphtali, talking about Argentinians to Chileans, right? And everything in between. Right? So if you were being asked, what is your father? And your father is from Argentina down to Chile, you will respond, Abba Ya Naphtali. It's like a Naphtali or Naptalia, right? So we got Abba Ya Naptalia, right? Natalia. Right, so that's the name of the Argentinian, the Slovakia, the son of Israel, Naphtali, who is the progenitor of the people today who come from Argentina all the way down to Chile. Those are Naphtalians from the tribe of Naphtali in the Hebrew. All right. Last but not least, right? Last but not least, we got, the tribe of Issachar. I'm gonna write it in English, right? Issachar. Right? Shout out to, to our field General Mahyman, who was in Mexico, or was in Mexico yesterday, speaking and teaching on the lost tribe of Issachar in Mexico. So this is where the tribe of Issachar is from. This is where the large portion of the tribe of Issachar can be found, in Mexico. All right, so we got tribe of Issachar in the Hebrew. So if your nation, or if your father is Issacharite, if you're from Mexico, your father's from Mexico, right? Shout out to Officer Yashikar down in the RGV, camp leader of Mexico. You know what I'm saying? If you're from the tribe of Issachar in Mexico, in the Hebrew, you will respond to the question Ma Abaka. You'll respond Abba Ya Shakar. So like I'm gonna run in Hebrew. Yash Shakar. Right? Yash All right. So those are the 12 tribes of Israel in the Hebrew. Right. So if you're ever asked that question, or you know what I'm saying, if you're ever asked that question, if you want to ask somebody else, you know what I'm saying, what is their father? What is your father? What is his father? What is our father? You know what I'm saying? What is their father? What are y'all's father? You know what I'm saying? Now you have all 12, the names of all 12 tribes of Israel in the Hebrew and the English and their region, right? If you were listening to, you know what I'm saying, what I was saying, you know what I'm saying, you have all those things. If you need more, you know what I'm saying, if you missed anything, you can always ask, you know what I'm saying, you can always ask next week. You can rewind this class, go revisit something. Just make sure we're taking good, legible notes, good notes that we can understand and refer to. You know what I'm saying? We could go back and refer to, because next week we're going to be going over the names, the biblical names of the heathen nations. Now, Salakia. 1 second. Now, before we get up out of here, right? You know what I'm saying? That's all we got for today. But before we get out of here, you know what I'm saying, we're going to give a little bit more homework just for home practice, just so we can practice using these nations, the names of these nations, putting them into practice so that we can learn how to communicate with each other more effectively. So the question is, what is your father? Right? Ma Abaka. What is your father? So what I want you to do, and until next week where we can pick up where we left off, I want you to practice replacing this suffix right here. So what is your father? Instead of saying what is your father, practice using what is my father, what is your father, what is his father, all of these possessives. Practice forming sentences using those possessives and then responding just like we did all night tonight. What is your father? What is his father? What is her father? Right? What is our father? And then respond in the Hebrew, again, interchanging these suffixes, right? So, what is our father? Ma Abba Nawa. What is our father? And then you will respond, Abba Nawa Yashikar, Abba Nawa Shamaywan, Abba Nawa Manashah, right? What is her father? What is your father? Y'all's father? Ma Abakam, right? Ma Abaha, Ma Abawa. Practice interchanging these possessives. It should be real easy. It shouldn't take you too much time at all. It should be real quick. So next week, if we start asking questions and having conversations in the Hebrew, you'll be able to respond in the Hebrew, right? So that's the homework, you know what I'm saying, for next week, you know what I'm saying? That's going to begin the discussion and begin the material that we're going to learn for next week. And, you know what I'm saying, just work on practicing that, right? But with that, we're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh, Shah, Barakathum to the brothers. And Shalom, Yahweh, Shamar, Athah, Ba'ashim, Yahweh, Shah to all the sisters, right? We'll see y'all next week.